previous lecture, we have gone through the need for using a macro, right? The need for a macro facility. Now in this lecture, we will dive into the features of macro and how we get to use macros, right? So to begin with, the need for a macro says that a programmer often finds it necessary to repeat a block or a sequence of instructions more than once, right? As we have seen in lecture 1, there is a dire need of repeating a sequence of instructions more than once in the same program. In such cases, iteration or looping is not a feasible solution. We have discussed why iteration or looping is not a feasible solution in cases where the sequences are followed by intermittent one-time instructions, right? So in such situations, the macro facility is said to be useful. The macro facility is useful in such situations, right? Moving ahead, the benefits of macros. So the benefits of macros is more or less the same thing. It's a notational convenience. See, it is called a notational convenience for the programmer, right? So instead of writing or instead of remembering the whole sequence of instructions time and again, we can simply represent it using a notation or a name. Similarly, it can be called as a shorthand version. So it allows the programmer to write a shorthand version of the program, right? So shorthand version means in the previous days, shorthand was a widely used type of writing generally by the reporters, right, where they would use symbols for specific words. Similarly, in the case of a macro facility, the shorthand version is simply the representation of the set of instructions by a single name. So what does it do? It defines a single instruction. It defines a single instruction or a single name to represent a given block of code or sequence of instructions. Fine. So this we have to be comfortable with, that macros provide us with the following benefit, right? Moving forward, the features of a macro facility. Now there are 3 features in all. The first one is called the macro definition, the second one is the macro call, and the third one is the macro expansion. If you remember from your programming days, we had something similar about functions, right? There was a function definition and then there was a function call and the function expansion would occur, right? Okay, so taking help of the example from the previous lecture, this is the example again, right? So there is a sequence of instructions, A1 data, A2 data, A3 data. This sequence of instructions is followed by a set of one-time instructions. So these 2 instructions are here only once, right? These 2 one-time instructions are again followed by our given sequence of instructions, A1 data, A2 data and A3 data. Again they are followed by some other one-time instructions. This is how my whole sample program is going on, right? So in this example, this whole sequence of 3 instructions is being repeated multiple times, in this case twice, right? So the macro facility allows us to attach a name, right? Attach a name which is treated as an instruction, right? The macro facility allows us to attach a name to this sequence. So this sequence can be represented by using a name. Fine. This sequence, again this sequence, all of these, since they are the same, they can be represented by using a name. Use the name in the program in place of this sequence of steps. So this is how we can call macros. That is called the macro call. We will be coming to that soon, right? So we will define a name for a sequence of instructions and then we will use that name in the program wherever we want to use this same sequence of instructions. Fine. This is how in general macros work. Okay. So naming a sequence. So the first step is to name the sequence. So let's say I have these 3 steps, right, from my given example, and I want to give them a name. Let us name them INCR or increment, right? INCR is a short for increment conventionally, right? Please note that the name of a macro facility, the name of a macro is generally written in all caps in all capital letters, right? Conventionally. There is no hard and bound rule, but this is the convention. So we have named this sequence as INCR. Fine. So this is just the naming part. But the naming is not enough. Why? Because it is not feasible to only the programmer to know that the macro has a given name, that a sequence of instructions has a given name, right? The macro processor has to know it as well. The macro processor has to understand that a given sequence of instructions has a name attached to it, right? So we have to tell the same thing to the macro processor. So only naming the sequence of instructions is not enough. We have to provide a proper definition which tells the assembler or the macro processor that we are representing the sequence of instructions A1 data, A2 data and A3 data using the given name INCR, right? So we have to tell the macro processor or the macro assembler that we are representing these sequence of instructions with the name INCR, right? So for that matter, the naming only is not enough in itself, right? We have to do something about it. We have to tell about it to the macro processor. So that's where we come to the macro definition, right? So same as in function definition, we can have a definition for a given macro, and that definition follows a particular syntax. This syntax is very important to understand, right? We have to understand how this syntax works. So the first line in this syntax is macro, M-A-C-R-O, in all caps, right? The first line is macro. Now what is macro? This macro in all caps, it's a pseudo op instruction that begins the macro definition, and it indicates that the next line is the name of the macro, right? So macro in all caps, macro, the word macro, it is a pseudo op instruction. Now what is a pseudo op instruction? We have already learned in previous lectures that a pseudo op instruction is an instruction which carries special meaning only for the assembler, right? So the macro, macro macro, is a pseudo op instruction, an instruction for the assembler which begins the macro definition. So this indicates that the macro definition is now beginning, and it also tells us that the next line is going to be the name of the macro. Fine. The next line is going to be the name of the macro, right? So in the next line, where we have written in dots, this dots will be replaced by the name of the macro definition, and this name is again written in all uppercase, right? Conventionally written in uppercase. In our previous example, where we were naming the macro, see, we have used all uppercase, INCR. Fine. So again, in the syntax, we can also write that, we can also say that the macro name is given using all uppercase. Fine. So once we are done with the naming of the macro, please note that these brackets won't be there. We will be coming to an example where you can understand it better, but this is the general syntax and we have used a bracket for the name. Fine. Okay. Then once we have named this macro, once we have started the definition using the pseudo op and we have named the macro, we will move forward and we will simply put down the sequence of instructions that needs to be abbreviated, right? So what these statements are? These statements are the sequence of instructions for which we are providing a name. These are the sequence of instructions which we are naming. We will simply write down those instructions one after the other. So if I have 3 instructions, I will simply write down statement 1, statement 2, statement 3, right? So this is how the macro definition proceeds. So this is the part where we are putting down the sequence of the instructions which we are trying to name, right? Which we are trying to provide an abbreviation, right? Moving on, the last statement in the macro definition is mend, M-E-N-D, right? So this mend is again a pseudo operation. So being a pseudo operation, this mend command also has a special meaning only to the assembler, right? It's a pseudo op. It's a pseudo op instruction. Fine. And mend stands for macro end, right? So mend stands for macro end. So it indicates that the macro definition is over now. This is the ending of the macro definition. Fine. So to sum up, the macro definition contains what? First it contains the macro sudo up, right, in all caps. Then it contains the name in the next line. It contains the name of the macro definition. It contains the name of the sequence of instructions. Followed by the name, we will write down all the instructions for which we are trying to provide a name, right? Once we have written down the set of instructions, we will simply end the macro definition by writing mend, M-E-N-D, mend, right? So this is the complete definition of the macro syntax, right? Okay, so moving forward, let's come back to our example again. So we have an example where we had A1 data, A2 data, A3 data, a sequence of instructions, followed by some one-time instructions, followed by the same sequence of instructions and another one-time instructions, and so on. So this was our original problem, right? So just now we have seen that we will need to redefine the problem using a macro definition. That is our motive, to make sure that the source code is not so lengthy, right? We will try to make the length of the source code shorter. That is our whole motive. So for that matter, we will redefine the problem using macro definition. So these three steps will be named INCR. This is the main concept, right? So the example using macros shows us what would happen if we had actually written this original problem statement using macro definition. So see, the first part of the problem consists of the macro definition itself. This is the macro sudo up, which tells the macroprocessor, which tells the assembler that we are beginning the macro definition, right? This is followed by the keyword or the word INCR. INCR is nothing but the name of this macro that is being defined. INCR is the name of this macro that we are defining. Followed by INCR, there is a sequence of steps. So for these sequence of steps, we are providing a name called INCR. This is what it means, right? Now once we have written the sequence of steps, we will simply put down mend or macro end. So this is the macro definition for our given sample problem. So for our given sample problem, this one, we can have a macro definition which will look like this, right? Make sure you understand this. If you have any problem at any point, please, you can pause, rewind and go through the lecture again. I am sure you will understand, fine, but this is very important to understand. Now once we have this macro definition, this can be followed by any number of any instructions, right? Please make sure that you understand this is a part of the program. This is nothing but a part of the program, and this can be followed by any number of any instructions. But whenever we find that this sequence of instructions is occurring, that we need to use this sequence of instructions, we will simply write its name in that place. We will simply write the name INCR in that place, right? This can again be followed by any number of any type of instructions, and again whenever we find that the sequence is occurring, that the sequence is there and we need to write that same sequence, we will again use the name, right? So what this definition is doing, this definition is helping us name a sequence of instructions, and that name can be used any number of times in our program. Please keep in mind, we can use this name that we have defined in the macro, we can use this name any number of times as required in our program, fine. So there is something called macro expansion, as we have already seen in the macro facilities, that there are three parts to a macro facility, right? There is a macro definition, which we have already understood. This is called the macro call. This is called the macro call, where we are actually using this name for defining or for indicating that the sequence of instructions is occurring in this place. This is a macro call. Same as a function call, as we had a function call, right, where we used to call the function, where we used to represent that block of code. Similarly, wherever we need to represent this sequence of instructions, we can use this macro name, as I already said, and this is known as the macro call, right? So this is macro definition, this is macro call. Moving ahead, there is something called macro expansion, right? So the program that we originally have, this one, the program that we have originally written for including macros, that is called the source code, right? Because the programmer has written that code. So it is called the source code. The source code contains what? It contains a macro definition followed by any number of other instructions, macro calls, other instructions, macro calls, and so on, right? The source code will have this sort of a shape, right? The source code will have this sort of a shape. So what happens here is the overall length of the source code is being decreased, because every time you are not required to write the 3 lines or the 3 sequence of instructions here. Again, the sequence of instructions here. Instead of 3 instructions, you are only using one single instruction, which is just the name of the macro, right? So the overall length of the source code is decreased, right? So this is the source code using macros. This is your source code. What happens is the macro processor replaces each macro call statement or INCR, right? This is the macro call statement with the instructions A1 data, A2 data, and A3 data, right? So there is a macro processor, and it understands that wherever you have used the name of the macro INCR, that is a macro call statement, and at every point of the macro call statement, the macro processor is supposed to replace the macro call with the actual instructions, right? So this is what the macro processor does. That is the macro processor's job. Fine. So this process of replacement is called expanding the macro. This is the third facility of macro, right? It is called macro expansion or expanding the macro, right? So this is your source code. This whole piece of code is your source code, and it is processed by the macro processor to generate another piece of code. That is processed by the macro processor to generate another piece of code, which is called the expanded code. And in the expanded code, this is something you need to understand very well. In the expanded code, this macro definition does not appear. The macro definition does not appear in the expanded code, right? This definition is not there in the expanded code. Fine. What does the expanded code contain? It contains the original instructions. It contains all the original instructions, and wherever there is a macro call, it contains the sequence of instructions with which the macro is defined, right? So this expanded code is actually similar to our long length of the program, long version of the program, right? The initial version which we had seen as an example. This expanded code is the original or the simple version of the program where all the instructions are written down. But this expansion is done by the macro processor itself. While writing the program, we are not writing or we are not putting in a expanded version. We are putting in a version where we have used the macro definition and macro calls, right? So let me repeat again. The source code, after we have learned macros, the source code will consist of macro definitions and macro calls. Once we are providing that source code, the macro processor will go through the source code and it will generate an expanded code. And in the expanded code, wherever it finds a macro call, it will be replacing that macro call statement with the actual instructions from the macro definition, right? So whenever it finds INCR, it will replace that with these 3 instructions, as we can see, right? So this is called the expanded code. And another characteristic is that the expanded code does not contain the macro definition. So in many ways, the expanded code is similar to our actual problem statement, where there is no shorting of the program has not been decreased in length, right? The program is not short, it is very long in length, because all the sequence of instructions are written down one after the other. Fine. So this is called the macro expansion. Now going through some definitions, the macro definition is a process that attaches a name to a sequence of instructions. So macro definition is a process which attaches a name to a sequence of instructions. This we have already seen, right? Macro call can be defined as the use of a macro name in the program once that name has been defined for a sequence of instructions. So first we need to attach a name, or we need to define a name for a given set of instructions, and then we can use that name wherever we want in the program, right? That use of the name is called a macro call. It is called a macro call. Or we can write the occurrence of macro name in the source program is known as the macro call. Fine. So we are clear with what a macro definition is and what is a macro call. The next thing is a macro expansion. So whenever the program needs the instruction in place of the macro name, we use macro expansion, right? The macro processor replaces each macro call with the defined set of instructions. This process of replacement is called macro expansion, as we have seen here, right? So this name INCR is being replaced with the sequence of instructions A1 data, A2 data, A3 data. This is known as a macro expansion, right? So this is all about the features of a macro facility, right? We have understood what a macro definition is, what is a macro call, and what happens in a macro expansion. We will learn more in the next lecture. Thank you.